Hello, everyone. I welcome each of you to the third webinar of the Green Destinations Story Award Winners 2021. Today, we will review inspiring stories of good practice in the nature and ecotourism category, which is brought to you by Green Destinations, ITV Berlin, and GLP Films. I am Felipe Vera, representative of Green Destinations in Chile and member of the UNWTO panel of experts. I would like to thank the Green Destinations team for the opportunity to host this event. Tourism suffered the greatest crisis on record in 2020, following an unprecedented health, social, and economic emergency amid the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. International tourist arrival, or overnight visitors, plunged by 34% in 2020 over the previous year, due to widespread travel restrictions and a massive drop in demand. This represents 1 billion fewer international arrivals and means a return of international tourism to levels of 30 years ago. It exceeds by far the drop of 4% in arrivals seen in 2009, which was the largest decline experienced by international tourism previous to the pandemic. The crisis has also put 100 to 120 million direct tourism jobs at risk, many of them in small and medium-sized enterprises, and with a high share of women and youth. The COVID-19 crisis has emphasized the need to strengthen the resilience of the tourism sector and awakened a sense of unity and interconnected among tourism stakeholders. This crisis has highlighted both the fragility of the natural environment and the need to protect it, as well as the intersections of tourism, economics, society, and the environment like nothing before in history. In this context, I would like to present to you 3 stories that represent great efforts to conserve nature. The first place in this category is Tibet, Montenegro. Alexandra Ivanovic is biologist at GP Morsko Dobro Tibetska Solila Nature Reserve in Tibet, Montenegro. Alexandra, congratulations on this recognition. And please, could you introduce us to your work, the destination, and what makes your good practice story compelling?
Thank you, and greetings from Montenegro. It is currently very sunny, and we are hoping for that the nice weather and reducing of COVID measures will allow people to go outside and enjoy the nature. We are coming from a beautiful small coastal town of Tivat. Actually, me myself are working in another town, but the Tivetska Solila Nature Reserve is placed on the coastal part of the Tivat municipality, beautiful small coastal town that is bases its tourism development on interaction with nature. Besides this nature reserve, on the area of Tivat, we have a beautiful old historic city park in the heart of the Tivat municipality, and we have a further development of a tourism based on nature in the Luštica Peninsula and along the coast of Tivat. That is all future possibility for sustainable development of tourism. Regarding the good practice story, we based it on the efforts for the management of this nature reserve that unfortunately was throughout the history was very active place, mostly for the salt production. However, it was deserted for numerous of years, and now again it's shining, but this time because of its beautiful biodiversity, and primarily because it's a habitat and a safe haven for birds on their migratory routes.
Great.
Should I continue?
Yeah, I'm gonna go back with you in a few minutes because well, first thank you and congratulations again. But I would like to introduce the second place in this category is Kochie in Slovenia, and I would like to introduce Nevenka Klun. She's head of tourism department at Kochie. Nevenka, how are you?
Hello, thank you very well. I would also like to congratulate Alexandra and Tivacka Solila for the first place in this category. It's really an inspiring story. So,
thank you.
Great. Nevenka, congratulations for your work and for being one of the finalists in this category. Please tell us about your destinations and what makes your good practice story compelling.
Yeah. Kochevsko, we name it also the secret forest of Slovenia, is one of the most forested areas in Europe. Almost 90% of our landscape is actually covered by forests, so 9 parts out of 10. And Slovenia is therefore also one of the rarest areas of Europe where we can still find all three great beasts living in their natural environment, so bears, wolves, and lynx. And bear is the most famous and also charismatic inhabitant of Kochevsko forest. And as such, it is also an inspiration for many stories in our region. And it is also considered as an important part of our natural heritage. Actually, in Slovenia, according to last information, live around 900 to 1,000 bears, and most of them live in the southern part, so in this Kochevsko-Notransko forests, which makes us one of the destinations with the highest density of brown bear in the region. And therefore, we are also often called like bear land. And we all know that when people and bears coexist in high density in a multiple use landscape, such coexistence often leads also to considerable conflicts. And the same is also here in Kochevsko. So although people here were used to live with bears for centuries, there are still some encounters because, as we know, bears are curious and they are regularly seeking food. And therefore, they are coming closer and closer to the habitats. And to be honest, also we are with the settlements coming closer and closer to the bears. So this leads to more and more conflicts, and there are different kinds of measures that needs to be taken to minimize those conflicts. And also we wanted to add our part in this matter. So we started with different tourist programs, developing different tourist programs and educating local people and also visitors about the bears, and therefore contribute to a better acceptance of the bears. And I think we managed quite good. So when people get to know the bears, also already this education is very important, since this way they are not scared of them anymore, or maybe better said, they are not scared of going to the nature in the areas where bears are living. And also we managed to get additional source of income for some locals, and this also increased the value of bears in their eyes. So just in short.
Great. Thank you, Nevenka. And now I would like to present the third finalist in the Nature and Ecotourism category, which is SAVA, Dutch Caribbean. Vito Charles is board chairman from SAVA Rich Foundation. Vito, congratulations on achieving this recognition and being one of the top 100 sustainable destinations. Tell us, please, about your work, about SAVA, and what makes your good practice story compelling.
I'm board chairman of Save Reach Foundation. And the Save Reach Foundation, well, let me tell you first about Saba. Saba is a small island in the Dutch Caribbean. It's more located closer to what's more common to most people, St. Martin. A lot of people remember St. Martin because of the planes that fly over the beach and land in the beautiful runway there. Saba is also well known for its airport. We have what is called the shortest commercial runway in the world, only 400 meters, very special plane. It takes a very special plane and very pilots to land there. So yeah, and we're also a very small island. We only have 5 square miles. We have only 2,000 inhabitants. So we're a very small community. The garden, the Save Reach Garden, the Organic Ponics Garden that won the award. So it's a sheltered workplace where we provide employment for young people who have a distance to the labor market and have trouble finding employment elsewhere on Sable. Even though we're a small community, sometimes it's difficult for people to reintegrate in society after they have some trouble or if they have not been employed for quite a while. And so our market brings the participants of the market to the community, and it allows them to provide food for the local community, but also for tourists that visit the island. So it's also, especially since COVID, more and more people are buying more healthier food, and tourists also. We have tourists that come for a longer time to the island since COVID, and they're also now purchasing food because normally they get it at a restaurant, but now they're also willing to cook more at their villas and at their hotel rooms.
Great, thank you very much, Vito. Alexandra, I would like to come back to you and ask you, how does your story stand out? I mean, if you can go deeper with your story, please.
Well, for me, every detail is very important. Every detail stands out. But I think what is recognized as the most interesting and unique in our story is that this very genuine and enthusiastic cooperation from the beginning of setting up the protected area. This cooperation was among the municipality of Tivat, so the administration on the local level, tourist organization of Tivat that recognized the importance of including this area into their local offer. The NGO that is primarily concerned bird protection and protection of the habitat for the birds, local municipality, local community, people who live nearby this area, and public enterprise for coastal zone management. That is it's a national level agency that manages the coastal zone of Montenegro, but is in charge of the management of the protected area. Protection of and declaration of protected area is one administrative procedure, but once we finalize this problem, then we came to the field to do some work. What we found there is actually, unfortunately, deserted area. This, as I mentioned before, throughout the history, it was very important for the local people. It was for production of salt in the Middle Ages. During the Austro-Hungarian period, people had their vineyards and orchards and were doing agriculture. And the last time this place was active was the 60s of the last century, when there was an attempt to make a industrial salt production. This was not successful, and after that the area was deserted. It was used for hunting, for fishing, for illegal dumping, and this remains of some historic monuments that were there were deteriorated, and the whole area was not very attractive. But as being a lagoon near the sea, it was a very important place for birds on their migrating routes to come and rest there. So this partnership that was created, it was informal partnership. Nobody told us to work together, but we all had this idea. We all had this interest to make this a better place. So we start all pitching in, giving our own effort, and we cleared the place, repair the paths, and we started with some promotion. So I think it was what makes this place stand out is that everybody gave their own little piece, and we made this very nice and successful puzzle.
Great to hear that. The story of Tivatska Solil is very interesting because what once a place of civic and community importance fell derelict and became a dumping ground for debris from human and construction activities. So it's very interesting all the path that you travel. Nevenka, please share with us how does your story stand out?
Yeah, I would say similar. Also, this cooperation with different kind of professionals, experts, partners. So we had deep discussions with biotechnical faculty, especially people working on this live dinner bear, who are really professionals for the bears. They also prepare these guidelines for non-consumptive use of bears, which are really good guidelines how to make tourism programs not to very sustainable way, so not to harm or any way influence the wildlife in the forest. We also worked in hand with our Slovenian Forest Service, also with tourist agency Visit Good Place, who develops and sells sustainable tourism programs. With our local hunters, we had extensive educations also for our local tourist guides, so they know how to represent a bear, their habits, and all the important facts about them to the tourists, but do it in an interesting way, so they don't get bored with all the facts, but that they really get to know this animal and look at it in different way. We also had a lot of workshops with locals, so they also looked at them from different perspective, not just on somebody who should be scared of or who should be angry at because of the damage they make, but also at an animal who really lives its own way, and we have to adjust and also can take it as something good in our destination. So all this cooperation and all these partners that were included, also hunters, for example, because their main purpose is totally different as they do it in this story, because normally they are the ones who shot and lower the number of bears in our country to manage the number of them each year. But in this specific case, they had totally different function and had to look at it in different way, and it was really interesting to discuss with them and to include them in this program. And then also, for example, farmers and beekeepers, they normally have big problems with bears, and now they were the ones who could tell all the interesting stories, how it was at the beginning, how they were angry at them, and how all these measures that are taken in our country now help them, and now coexist with them successfully. And it's really interesting to hear all these stories, to make them on one place and do a tourist program out of it, and to then explain this further to the visitors of the destinations.
Great, great. Well, Slovenia is among the countries with the highest density of brown bears population in the world. And most of the birds in Slovenia are located in the forests of Kochie region. I mean, if you want to live a unique experience, one of the Slovenian unique experience, this is by far, this is the place.
Yes.
And Vito, I will also like to ask you, how does your story stand out? Can you share with us, please?
Sure. I think what's important to note here is the sustainability. You know, if you live on an island, everything's imported. You know, most of you live in continental areas, so you live on a small island, everything's imported. And I think through the organic plant garden, we have tried to create this idea on the island of self-sustainability and self-production, so that people can realize that we can produce our own food. And it's also good that when people come here to the island, they're also getting something that is grown locally and something that is produced sustainably.
And also, Sava is largely dependent on rainwater. catchment for water supply. So you are, as you say, you are facing many challenges right now too.
Exactly. Well, yeah, running water. We're very dependent on rainwater that we receive. So when we don't receive water, we also then have to depend on water that is produced by reverse osmosis. So sustainably using water and sustainably using resources is also very important on our island.
Great. Alexandra, what are the key success factors of restorative change management of the Special Nature Reserve Tivatska Solila?
Well, definitely this synergy among all the actors and their interests to make this a better place. I might say that besides the goodwill and the enthusiasm, definitely it was the turning point was once our public enterprise was named officially a manager of the area in 2014, because at that moment we can seclude annual financing of the activities. You know, the nature protection really needs also investments. It cannot be just left alone, especially the wetland area as Solila is. If we were leaving it as it is, then soon it would be forest. So we need to keep the water regime going in order to have a habitat for birds to come, feed, and also nest in this area. So we started investing in repairment of the area, and I might say that this actually helped us gain trust from local community, because when you talk about nature protection, especially special reserve, it usually in a community it means you cannot go in there, you cannot touch, you cannot use anything, and people were feeling like they were banned from the area. So firstly, we focused on repairment of old Austro-Hungarian road and infrastructure, and we turned it into the walking path. We put some bird watching towers. The entrance is always open, and we also hired a permanent person working there that is from the local community. And after a while, we start receiving neighbors coming, seeing what it is. And then you can see their pride that this area that their fathers or grandfathers used to work there, collect salt. Now, again, it's being nice, and they would come. And as Nevenka said, they start bringing us stories, traditions, their experiences, old pictures, and we start collecting this information. And this brought also another issue that this area, it is important for biodiversity and for nature, but it has a valuable cultural heritage. Not only the salt production, some remains from old civilizations, and there was a clay factory nearby organized by local people. So we did studies, and we also collected so much information that we also suggested to the Ministry of Culture to proclaim this area also a cultural heritage. So this synergy among all these pieces bringing together, I think this is all that brought to this success story. And now we were focusing on revival of this area, of the rehabilitation of the area, and now we have to see in what way we can show this to the visitors, to the tourists, and how to promote this in a sustainable way.
Great. That's very inspiring. And Nevenka, what are the key success factors of bird watching programs in Kochie?
Yes, I would say especially better understanding of bears and better human coexistence from our locals, and also this additional source of income for local people, so for tourist guides, for hunters, for all other tourism providers that are included in the program, also for beekeepers and farmers and so on. Yes, I think in short, I would say this increased value of bears in the eyes of local population and better understanding on bears, and also Kochie is even more known about the sustainable way of tourism development and of the tourism programs which are developed and performed in sustainable way to promote our nature, our well-preserved forests, and also the wildlife, which is still very rare to see actually all this wildlife in natural environment. So
well, great. That is very important too, because as Alexandra says too, education is, of course, is a key success factor. If you bring education to the people, to the tourists, they can also have a better experience in the place, in the destination. If you don't educate to tourists, even if you don't educate to your tourism value chain, your local tourism value chain, they can take better decisions for the future, even for local authorities. And Vito, for you, your key success factors for organoponics garden in Sava?
Definitely, as I mentioned before, sustainability, but also I think creating value through the life of the participants by bringing them closer to the labor market, and also providing gainful employment for them. That is our key mission, and that has been definitely our key success.
Right. Well, employment in these times is a key success factor. Absolutely. This question is for each of you. How have your destination coped with the COVID-19 pandemic and the decline in tourists? I don't know if you want to start with you, Alexandra.
Well, we are all facing this situation now over a year throughout the whole world, and without any previous experience with such a situation, I think that each location and each country is exploring the ways and testing the ways it can shift toward some activities that will have a tourism at least stable on one level. What we experience now in Tivat, what the tourist organization of Tivat is actually working on, is this actually promotion of a sustainable way of tourism, and this is one of the key activity actually is this certification for green destination of the Tivat as the destination of Tivat municipality, is just in order to create a network of all the different tourist offers, going from restaurants, from hotels, from private apartments owners, and all the other tourist offers, to shift toward more sustainable tourist offer, to shift toward combining nature and tourism, trying to find somehow a solution in order to offer something new or something safe in Tivat for tourists to come.
Thank you. And Nivenka, for you, what is the relation with the COVID-19 and the decline in tourists? What is your feelings about that?
Felipe, just maybe because I forgot about the main key success factor. Of course, it is a
please share with us.
Conservation of bears, because this was also the main reason why we started this thing. So I forgot to mention this, to highlight it. So sorry for jumping back. But yes, about the COVID, our destination has a very well preserved nature, and most of our programs are connected to this nature, and especially forest as our main star, let's say like that. So sustainable approach is something we have been following from the start of development of tourism in our destination, because we are aware that we cannot afford massive tourism also in, let's say, normal times. So this is at the moment good for us, but of course it is a challenge anyway, because Even before, we didn't have a lot of tourists, and with closed borders and all the limitations, it is even less of them. So we are trying to prepare interesting programs. We are lucky that we have a wide space, a lot of forest, a lot of nature, where a lot of different activities can be performed. But we have to be creative and prepare good stories, sustainable stories, because I believe this is the future, COVID or no COVID. So yes, it will be interesting, and we just hope that it will calm down and we will be able to travel again and see all these interesting stories. I would also like to travel to other two destinations to see their work also in person, but we hope we will manage.
Great. Well, you're right. With pandemic or no pandemic, we should advance. Every destination in the world should advance in a sustainable way for our responsible recovery. You are absolutely right. I am with you. And Vito, for you, how about, well, Sava, a small island, and all this COVID-19 pandemic and the relation with the declining tourist?
Well, so almost a year ago, actually, or about a year ago, Seva had to take a strong position, and we had to close our borders with only 2,000 people, and we don't have any major hospitals on island. It was imperative to keep people safe, and so we had to shut down and stop any tourism activity. But in the meantime, I think about 7, 8 months ago, we pivoted. So in November, we pivoted and we said we would start allowing long-term visitors. So anyone that wanted to stay more than a month would be allowed to come and visit the island. And that has shown some success. So you have visitors that have been here, well over 2 or 3 months. Another thing that we have had to do is we've been able to, because of the auspices of the Dutch government, we've been able to vaccinate, as of yesterday, 85% of the adult population. So that puts us in an unavailable position, but also gives us the opportunity to open now, not without restrictions, and start inviting people who are vaccinated to come to the island, and also people who are not vaccinated maybe can come, but have a shorter quarantine period. So instead of 10 days of quarantine, they only have to do 5 days of quarantine before they can start going into the community. So I think this slow approach, pragmatic approach towards reopening keeps the island safe, but also allows us to start developing the tourism product again in a sustainable way. And also, it's going to be a new reality for people on the island, because for the last year, we've been able to move around the island without any real concerns other than having, people visit the island. And now we're going to have to be a bit more cautious in how we interact on a regular basis. So I think we've done a fairly good job keeping people safe, which was the most important aspect of the pandemic.
Yeah, you are right. Absolutely. This is, of course, it's an economic crisis, but at the same time, and most important, it's a health crisis. So we should put people first. And if we, well, you have a very pragmatic approach in terms of shut down or close the borders, and I think that is a very good idea in terms of to protect the destination, but most important, to protect your local communities. I understand that you have questions prepared for the other participants, and this is your time. Please ask your question. Maybe Alexandra have some questions prepared to Nivenka. Alexandra, that's right.
Sure. Yes, I coming from managing of a nature reserve, reading about this success story, I was thinking, okay, we have birds, so how to promote this bird watching? It's kind of a standard, but bear watching was for me a bit interesting. So our question actually is which activities that our local community are most eager to be involved and how to support this program, and what actually the local community, the locals, you were mentioning about this, but what they find as the most important for them, what is through their experience, what they find as the most significant.
Mm-hmm. As I already explained, a lot of different people are involved in the program. For example, local tourist boards, local hunters, beekeepers, farmers, and also providers of accommodation and restaurants and so on. So for them, it is very interesting to share their stories, especially hunters, especially beekeepers and farmers, and also hunters actually, because they have a lot of stories also connected with bears, not just managing the population, but also other stories connected, and also a lot of pictures. So they like to share all this information then also with visitors. And what they gain, so this experience with locals, share information, and also additional source of income, of course. And as you said, yeah, it's a different approach to watch bears. So we had to construct a special hide. Actually, at start, it was idea to do it on the hunter's hides, but they don't like to mix two different works, let's say so, and also they were not so appropriate for tourists. So we constructed two specially designed hides for the people, so the smell is not coming out and the noises, because it's sometimes hard to explain that you should be very quiet because bears have very good hearing. Yes. So specially constructed places, also a bear room where people get to know a lot of interesting facts about the bears. So also locals like to come and get to know all this information. And yes, I forgot to answer something, sorry.
That's thank you.
Okay, and what is also important, we didn't want the people just to come and sit there in the heights and wait if the main star will come or not, because we cannot guarantee for 100% that the bear will come. So that's why we developed the whole day experience. So the local tourist guides were very important here, because they guide them through the forest, through the natural environment of the bears, and explain all the interesting stories, all the information about the bears. They follow the signs of presence, so the footprints in the mud and some poos on the road or things like that. And every time they find some signs of presence, not only bears, maybe also some other wild animals, they explain everything around it and explain all the stories. So it's really interesting program for kids, also for adults, and yeah.
Excellent.
Great. Nevenka, do you have also some questions prepared to Alexandra, I think?
Yes, sure. So as I wrote in your explanation, Stivat is one of the most significant bird habitats in the region. And it really looks beautiful. I cannot imagine that some time ago there were trash and things like that. So it's a really nice place at the moment. But is it true that there is more than 100 different bird species in the area?
Actually, even more. Officially, when in 2008, when the reserve was proclaimed protected area, official number was 114 species, different species registered in the area, not living permanently, because Tivat is the most important for bird resting site during the spring and fall migration. However, at the beginning of this year, end of last year, we did a complete study, and now we officially have 178 species registered in Tivatska solila. I might say that this is partly due to the more increased and more frequent monitoring of the bird species, because before the area was actively managed, we only had volunteers from Center for Protection and Research of Bird. It's an NGO that was doing occasional monitoring. However, now, because we are the manager, we have official monitoring programs. And last year we did the comprehensive monitoring of bird species, and we came to this very, very important fact. We also would like to say that this number increased also due to our good management. And a proof for this, we received last fall in October. We had finally, after over 10 years, we had 3 species of young flamingos come to our nature reserve. We deemed this as a very, very important success, because for a long time they were not there. They are very scared species, and they were scared by hunters in the history. And now we have these 3 young flamingos came in the fall last year. There is a Ulcin solana nearby, and we believe it comes back and forth. They come from there, but they are coming all winter. They still are coming, so we hope in maybe in recent years they will start the population there. For that, we need to do some more restoration work and have areas with no entrance of humans and no disturbance for them to lay eggs. But it's there's some hope in the future. So yes, solila are very important for birds. But also, what I should say is that in the past 5 or 6 years, we started research on other species of biodiversity. And we so far found out that we have 21 endemic species. We have 5 plant species, 1 amphibian, and 16 insects, of which a lot of them are even on EU lists, which this all says that because Montenegro is on its way to enter the European Union, we hope that the solila will be Natura 2000 area, which is, we think, also another important fact for our reserve.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Alexandra, and also I think that you have some questions for Vito.
Yes, I was the story was very interesting. I was very interested into having this garden in your island. And I was wondering, did you have what were the main obstacle at the beginning? Because setting up the garden is not an easy way. Also, it takes a time for products to keep coming and to be successful. I myself have a garden, and sometimes you plant something, but you don't have to collect you don't get to collect the fruits. And another thing, because the combination of organic garden and tourism, do you have experience? Do tourists, when they come to buy produce on your market, do they interact with local people? Do they talk about customs and tradition? Are they interested into that? Is there that kind of a connection between production of food and tourism?
So, first to talk about your initial statement. So yeah, when we started production, so one of the things that is important to note is that we do have a professional gardener on staff. So that person is responsible for ensuring that there's consistent production. Of course, there are times when we can't guarantee production given the size of the garden, but we do try to make sure that we do have regular markets and on a consistent basis. In regards to tourists interacting, so everyone that works at the garden is local. And when tourists, and so they have quite a bit of knowledge about the island, just having lived here. And when tourists do visit, they are able to share their experiences, and they're able to express, what they think tourists should engage in and have meaningful conversations. So I think that is something that tourists find valuable, the opportunity to genuinely interact with the local population. Um, and I think it's a learning experience for them as well. Having meeting people who are literally growing their own food, the food for them.
Great. Nivenka, I think that you have also a question to Vito.
Yes. Since Saba is a volcanic Caribbean island, as I understand, probably water is a big challenge, I would say. So how do you manage this? Because vegetables and fruits need quite some water to grow.
So that's a very interesting question. So many years ago already, we have this. So there's a lot of water when it rains, and it runs on the road.
Mhm.
And so what we try to do is collect that water, and we have this idea on the island called gray water systems. So the water is not potable water, and so we recollect that water, and that water is used for the crops.
Great, perfect.
Vito, I'm gonna stay with you. Well, what do you think how do you think the relationship between man and nature will be in a post-COVID-19 scenario? Do you think that we will learn from our mistakes?
So that's a very interesting question. I think on Seva, of course, we already a few years ago and consistently until today, we have tried to maintain a balance, because when you come from a small island, a lot of tourists, you notice that a lot very quickly. And also you notice when there are no tourists very quickly, unfortunately. But I think what's very important for us is that, we have limited, we also are a diving destination, we're also a hiking destination. And so we have always tried to maintain that balance of tourists to locals, tourists that can come and visit the island. So we don't have that idea of mass tourism. We don't have that problem that a lot of destinations face, where they're overrun with tourists and people are saying, no, we don't want any more tourists. We need our own space back. So I think moving forward, and if we look at destinations now that are saying, well, yeah, we definitely had too many tourists, we're saying, well, how can we grow the island, continue to go ahead with tourism, but make sure that the tourists that come here, that they have a worthwhile experience, but also, they're not harming our conservation efforts.
Great. And the same question for you, Nivenka. Will we learn from our mistakes? How about the man and nature in a post-COVID-19 scenario?
Yes, for sure. And as Vito already said, the same is also here in our destination. So we are very dependent on nature. We are used to live with nature for centuries, and it's very well preserved. And we have to be careful how to keep it the same also in the long run. So already from start of tourism, we didn't develop mass tourism products, just products for small groups, rather with higher added value per person. So, but we hope also other destinations which had really crazy times from the last couple of years did learn something. And as I know, in Slovenia, a lot of destinations that were very busy last years started to change their way of selling products and of promoting themselves, because they know it was not the right way, and this corona gave them opportunity actually to change things, because it would be on much longer run otherwise, because it will be hard to cut this trend of growing. And I think now they have a better chance to do it right way, and I'm positive that they will learn from past mistakes and do it differently.
I hope so. And Alexandra, the same. How about man and nature Will we
Yes,
learn? Difficult question
I
too.
hope so. I hope so. I must admit that here in Montenegro, we on the coast, we did have a mass tourism based on nature, but based on beaches and sea and sun. And in the summertime, this created really busy towns with congestions on the roads and crowds in our towns, which also creates numerous other issues. And maybe this is a good point to start thinking about other offers that natures have, not only to reduce these crowds on the beaches, but also to widen this season, this tourist offer. For example, in Tivat, combination with our nature reserve, not only that will bring a different type of tourism for bird watching, but they also, since the bird watching is in spring and fall, it also will have a tourist offer in different parts of the year, comparing to the summer, June, July, when everybody comes for the beach in summer. So definitely, I think we should learn something from this, and we should try to make it for our best.
Great. And Vito, you are free, of course, to ask any question to Alexandra and Nivenka at any time.
What struck me with both of them is because there's this interaction between the tourist and nature. But I think, at least from our experience as well, is that a lot of times it's very hard to convince locals to get involved with particularly conservation efforts. And when you talk about bird watching and bear watching, those are sometimes, species that people don't necessarily care to interact with. So how have you been able to stimulate that within the local population?
Well, I can start. Well, in Tivat, this is something that we are right now going to develop. So far, we were focused more on restoration, more on biodiversity, but now with interaction with local, with their stories, with their tradition, with their experience, we need to put it all together and to present this to the visitors. We are planning now to have trained guides, so they can also be aware of all the scientific data, but also about the customs and traditions, because we notice that people like to hear about what are the local food, local traditions, what are the local customs. And we also notice that the people who are our neighbors in the reserve have experience. They say, oh, their grandmothers used to come here and pick these plants and weave a basket or whatever. And this is something that is attractive, and it should be used. And you're as Nevenka said, that this, as I understand, this already exists in Kochevsko, and that you are saying that this interaction between tourists and locals, I think it's a starting point for this different type of tourism that is very attractive and very sincere, I should say. It's not something you read from the book, you hear this experience. I think this is something that really is a good point to promote this type of tourism.
Well,
Great. Nivenka, yes?
Yeah, the same here. So farmers and beekeepers who have these measures of coexistence, they really like to share their stories. They just were not sure if they can share them right way, or maybe sometimes language is a problem because they don't speak English or Dutch or whatever country guests are. So we have always our tourist guide following them, and then the tourist guide can translate, and they are really keen to share their stories with the visitors. And local tourist guides, we just made a special education for them for these programs. And now when they feel comfortable to share all this information, when they heard everything, and we went also to the forest to show them how to guide them, what to tell, what to explain. So when people know what their job actually is, and when you take them and show them how everything should turn out at the end, and then they feel better to do these things. And of course, there is always also a payment for their work. Yeah.
Great. And Nevenka, I'm going to stay with you and ask you, what are the biggest challenges that your destination will face the rest of the year as a tourist destination, I mean?
You mean with this concrete program or in general?
In general.
Mm-hmm. This year with the COVID situation?
Yeah.
Yes, of course. I think the main challenges were as in all other destinations. So all the limitations and especially these quick changes. So 3 days this, for 5 days this. So you get people to discuss when they can come, and you prepare everything for them to visit. And in next couple of days, everything changes, and you have to change everything or postpone it. Or so these are quite challenges, and it's to say so quite annoying. A lot of work, and at the end, many times people are not allowed to come, and yeah.
And the program in specific, the biggest challenge that will face the rest of the year?
Yeah, I mean, related to COVID, if the borders are open, I think there shouldn't be a big problems, because we have a very small groups. It's a maximum of 8 people, and in one height, maximum of 4 people. We are, of course, taking all the precautions, but the challenge is with these sterilizers, because they have a very strong smell, and as we all know, bears smell very good. So if they use the sterilizer for the hands or anything else, the bear, of course, will not come, because it's a new smell that they can smell it a long distance. And yeah, I think this could be a challenge, the biggest challenge in this coming year. And of course, number of people and borders, if they will be open, and what the restrictions will be.
And Vito, what's your opinion on the biggest challenge that your program and also Sava as a tourist destination will face the rest of the year?
Well, I think seeing how we get tourists to the island, because of course, we're dependent on St. Martin as a hub for the island. So getting tourists to the island, building capacity for tourists to visit the island is going to be a struggle, we anticipate. Additionally, we're part of the hurricane belt. We're in the hurricane belt. So, and we are entering the hurricane season as of June 1st. So seeing, what happens in that regard is going to be very interesting. And also seeing how our tourism product develops in moving forward for the year. So it's going to be a very interesting year. But, we have experienced hurricanes before. So we are a resilient island. And we believe that we can move forward and even come back stronger than before.
Great. And Alexandra, how about your program and your destination? Some challenges for the rest of the year?
Well, as Nevenka and Vito said, the challenge is that this uncertainty that you don't know which measures are today and which are tomorrow. I think for all tourist destinations, the challenge is to attract tourists and to present itself as a safe destination. I think this is a challenge that we all are sharing. And even those tourists that decide to travel, they of course want to travel to something they perceive as a safe destination. For nature reserve, I might say that if there was no corona, the greatest challenge for us would be the management of visitors, because we can receive only small groups, not more than 30 people at one time. Unfortunately, now we have the challenges now is that at certain times with the certain measures we have to close the park, because we have very narrow paths, and actually until the last week the nature reserve was closed for visitors. So if we have tourists come specifically to come visit the nature reserve, or they want to do bird watching and they face a period when the gates are closed. Unfortunately, this is something that is challenging.
Great, thank you. Vito, your final, please give us your final thoughts, your feelings about your program, and the same for you, Nevenka and Alexandra.
Well, I think we're very happy that we received to be selected among all these great and beautiful destinations that had really interesting stories. And so, we don't think third prize is a consolation prize because we definitely were competing among some very great destinations. So I think, but I think stories like this or opportunity like this give us all opportunities to share our stories and for more people in the world to become aware of our destinations, our programs, and the uniqueness of every space on Earth. We sometimes think about, countries, but I think, if I look at Montenegro and the other, they're giving a story about a small part of their country. And that's a space that lots of times we may not have ever heard about. So we should be grateful for this great opportunity.
Great. How about you, Nevenka?
Yeah, I would share the same thoughts as Vito said. So it's good to be in this company, and it's really good that Green Destinations highlight this kind of inspiring stories, and that we can learn one from each other and hear all the ideas. And I think we should promote and support this kind of stories even more in the future. So. And congratulations once again to both of the candidates.
Yeah, great. And Alexandra?
Yes, I would also like to join and congratulate also to Saba and Kochevsko. These stories were very, very interesting and unique. As you said, that each of the success stories is a specific jewel that you really get to know and see that all the effort that was put in to make a story success really should be rewarded. I must add that although Tivat, the Nature Reserve is the success story, Tivat as a green destination has a big team behind itself with led by tourist organization of Tivat and the green team on the level of municipality. Each of them participated, and from our side, that this network and the synergy of efforts, I think it's a good recipe for the good practice stories.
Great. Well, as governments and the private sector are now embarking on a path for recovery, there is no better timing for placing future generations at the center of the action. This implies long-term and holistic thinking with regards to the challenges of our world, and thus connects with the need to transition to a more sustainable tourism model based on a social inclusion and the restoration and protection of the environment. Our health and well-being depend on it. So Alexandra, Nevenka, and Vito, congratulations. Thank you very much for all your work. And I invite you to follow Green Destinations on social networks, and we are waiting for you in the next webinar. Thank you very much again for your attention, and congratulations one more time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.